All right, what is good, ladies and gentlemen, is the Master Reviewer back again with another review, and today we are doing a review for Tire Season 3. That is right, this is a very new season that just came out, so there will be spoilers for the entire video. I think as of the current time that I'm recording this, it is either a day or two old, so it just came out on the 13th, so yeah, there is going to be spoilers throughout this entire video. I did binge it. It's, not the longest show to binge, but yeah, I did watch it over the course of yesterday and today. So yeah, we will just get into it. And I'm going to start. I've been just over the past few videos. I think it's just easier for this show specifically to talk about the characters intertwined with the plot. Specifically, I'll start off rating the characters, and then I will rate the plot. So, yeah, this season you have Will, who specifically is. I don't really love what they did with Will this season, where they did focus a lot on his kind of past, where he used to work at a company that didn't really treat him the best, I would say. Not necessarily, we didn't really see a lot of him at the company, but it's just there is kind of, I think Will has a bit of trauma, I guess, from this previous company that they just fired him on the spot without really, they didn't care for him. And there was also an aspect of him having the opportunity to join a friend of his, Taylor, in a business venture that they were both planning on doing together, but Will thinking okay, maybe if he just stays at this company longer, then he will find success. So he has a bit of trauma for that. So they focus a lot on that aspect of Will, and it does lead to him kind of feeling not as prominent this season as he was in the previous ones. That's not to say that he is bad in the season. He still, towards the end, he still is very good, as well as the third episode specifically, where he goes to the women's business meeting thing with Kyla. I thought that was a pretty fun, good episode. So yeah, Will is definitely not as good as I felt like he was in previous seasons, but still he's a good character, I would say. So Shane specifically, they very much, in season 2, they did start focusing on Shane's romantic life, and in this season they definitely, that is the main thing that they are focusing on with Shane, where in the last season they were also kind of focusing a bit more on him taking over the business, him just playing more of a role in Valley Forge Auto Center. So in this season specifically, they have a very heavy focus on Shane and his relationships. So he's no longer with Kelly. He has I think at least, I don't know, there's Lucy this season, where a waitress that he meets with at a bar. There is Jill, who is a previous high school classmate of his. There is this woman that he meets in the final episode that he kind of bonds with for a bit until he ends up until Lucy, she ends up writing to him saying that she's pregnant on live TV. So that kind of ruins any aspect that was going on there. So yeah, Shane, it's good. I still think that Shane Gillis is still just an entertaining performer, and so I think that I think the character of Shane, it is a bit not the most interesting how they focus on just his romantic aspects, and it's there's a lot less of this season on them focusing on the actual tire industry itself. It's they still have stuff. It's the big focus on this season is the deal that the Valley Forge Auto is planning to make with Taka Taka, which is a brand new Korean tire supplier. So that's the big thing going on this season with Valley Forge Auto Center. Yeah, but besides that, there's not as much, it feels actual antics of Shane in the center itself, or there's no dealing with customers as much as there was in, there's a few episodes. There's the secret shopper customer episode, but it didn't feel as much the characters definitely have a lot of other stuff going on where they're going out to other places, and they're not, it's not just centered in the main store itself, which it felt like for the previous seasons, where it's yeah, the entire cast of characters kind of just all there dealing with customers and stuff like that. So anyway, besides Shane, let's see who else is there. There's Cal, who ends up meeting this guy Frank he's kind of not, I don't know, they describe him as autistic. I'm not sure if he is autistic, but he's kind of being a bit off-putting to, he's kind of weirding out Cal, and then he ends up by the end of the season, it's revealed that he was an FBI informant that was trying to take down his white nationalist cousin. So Cal, the entire most of the season, he meets this guy, and then he is just weirded out by him. But then it's Shane kind of messes with Cal by saying oh, you guys should be good friends and stuff, and it does lead to Frank and Cal hanging out, I guess, even though Cal doesn't really want to be hanging out with this guy. And I think the Italians, they also the Italians are going to Cal throughout the season saying hey, there's this FBI, there's FBI feds that are watching the shops and stuff. So by the end of the season, that ends up being true. So yeah, the Italians, they're not in this too much, but I think that they were entertaining the bits that they were in. Kyla, let's see, Kyla, they focus a decent amount, actually, I think more so in this season than they did in previous seasons, where she is very much focus. They focus on the aspect of people looking down on her character, where in the business, the women's business meeting episode, it's no one there, I think, respects her, I guess, because she's kind of more, I don't know how to describe her, but she's not as feminine as some of the other women that were there. There is an episode where she goes to a bar. She sees that her high school volleyball team was having a reunion and she wasn't invited there. So she also calls him out on that. So yeah, Kyla is a bit more memorable, I guess, this season because I don't really remember much of what she did in the previous season. So this season they did give her a bit more focus, which I guess was good. Let's see here. John, I think John makes like a brief cameo in the first episode. He's not really in this season compared to the last few. So who else is there? Dave, I think is good. I really like Dave this season, where it's like he's battling with his sex addiction, and he is very much like trying to stop his lifestyle of being addicted to going to strip clubs and like banging hookers and stuff like that. So he is trying to avoid those like temptations, but there are aspects in his life, specifically Pete Seidel, who does return this season, and he is trying to like tempt Dave into to getting back into that lifestyle so that he can end up blackmailing him and getting the deal for Taka Taka tires, which he is now currently working out. So yeah, I thought that Dave was very interesting. This very fun to see this season. So by the end of it, he does end up he catches his wife cheating, and then they kind of like say, okay, you know what? Like she says how it's like he's gotten a lot worse, being like a prude, I guess. Not he used to be a lot more cooler back then or something like that. I don't know how to describe it really, but so they come to a conclusion that's like they need to communicate with each other, and it's fine if they like cheat on each other on the side. So also there is Thomas Hayden Church's character, Phil. I think that I didn't really love his character this season. I think that last season it was a bit more interesting, where he was like a potential buyer for Valley Forge Auto Center, and then he does end up buying. I thought they kind of changed his character, I feel like, because at first I thought he was going to be like this really reckless businessman, but he's actually like maybe they just portrayed it. Maybe I misinterpreted the portrayal that they were giving for him in the second season, because this season he genuinely seems like he's like a pretty good businessman. So I'm not sure, because in the last season they were saying, Shane was saying stuff like how, oh, if you let him buy he's going to sell the place after one bad month, but he genuinely seems like he's a decent businessman. He does basically he tells, I don't know, it's kind of weird though, basically like he gets upset with Will and Shane, where the only thing that really, for some reason, by the way, the fleet accounts just aren't working anymore. Like that, the end of season 2 was basically they came up with the idea of fleet accounts, which would save their business, but I guess that just hasn't been working out. So the start of the season is just their business is failing, and then the excuses that like Phil comes up with to get upset at Shane and Will is specifically that he says, like, you didn't fire Mike Weir, which was a dude that Will was supposed to fire in the first episode, didn't end up firing. So there was that, and then he caught Will and Shane just drawing some genitals on a whiteboard. So, but I feel like they maybe should have did it. Right, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. The recording just stopped for some reason. So I think I was saying how Phil and Will, like their whole, I don't know, the conflict between them, I feel like could have been set up a bit better. But anyway, so Phil, he has like this new girlfriend, Bonnie, which Bonnie, she's just like very into spiritual, psychic kind of stuff, which I just didn't really care for as much. It wasn't really, those parts just felt kind of boring, I would say. So Bonnie, I did not really love as a new character. Let's see, any other new characters that there were. There was, I think Bobby Lee is in this. He was a new character. He was a businessman he was one of the like people that was doing the deal with Shane and Will for the Taka Taka tires, and he was very much kind of a I don't know, kind of similar to Pete Seidel, I guess, where he's like very much into hookers and strip clubs and stuff, and so he was kind of like not like a very professional businessman, I think. So he was fine, I would say. Besides him, is there anyone else that I'm forgetting to speak about? Any new characters? Yeah, all the other characters I think are just, I don't know if I forgot to mention it. Like there was a lot of Shane's love interest, which I didn't really get too much into. I'll get more into all these characters in the actual character tier list, which I will get to. So yeah, overall, I would give the characters, I would say, I think that the characters were, I think they were a bit better in like previous seasons. So I would still say that these are, I don't know, I'll go like good characters, 6.5 I'll say, but yeah, definitely I think it worked a bit better when the characters were, certain characters, I think like Shane's still good, Dave is still very good. I think Will's a bit worse because they gave him like a bit less focus, as well as just I didn't really like this whole arc where he did end up, he was planning to quit the tire business and then go work with his old friend Taylor, and then he realized that he misinterpreted like what Taylor was asking of him. He thought that Taylor was offering him a job. Taylor was actually just offering to like go into business together, where Taylor's business would like promote their tire business. So yeah, certain characters Will a bit worse. I think, Shane is still good, I would say, not necessarily better or worse. Phil didn't think, not as good as last season. So certain characters good. Well, we'll get into it with the materials. I'll say overall still good characters. I would say 6.5. In terms of the plot, I kind of spoke about already a lot of the plot. I would say the plot this season, I'm going to give it honestly, maybe not even a 4 to 5, because there's not really like a central, I don't know, the previous 2 seasons was very much them focused on trying to help like either get the tire business just out of the gutters, like actually make the business successful, or to, in season 2, it was like more focused on expanding the business. So in this season, it is just, for some reason now, the business is doing worse, which they don't really get into too much of why that is the case. Or if they did, then maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But I did not think, there was not a great setup for like the plot that's driving the season. And very much the season is just the business is doing worse. So Phil gets upset with Will and Shane, and eventually Will just kind of quits. He doesn't manage to get another job, so he returns. And then like by the end, I think Will and Shane, they just get like really lucky with the Taka tire deal, which does end up being like actual good quality tires. So it does lead to them end up managing to convince Phil to give them ownership of the company. So the plot, I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 5. I'm going to say it's an alright plot, but definitely I don't like it as much as the first or the second season, where it did feel like there was a bit more, like, I was a bit more invested, because it was like, okay, we actually have to make this business successful, and then season 2 is we have to expand the business. Now it's just like, okay, the business is somehow doing worse, even though like at the end of season 2, it's like we came up with a strategy. I guess the strategy just didn't end up working out, but yeah, this season, it feels like they're not really, it doesn't feel like there's as much of them at the actual tire shop, like dealing with customers and stuff, which was a big focus on the first 2 seasons. So this season, it does feel like a lot of kind of side stuff going on with, again, Shane's relationship, as well as like Will potentially pursuing different avenues of a career. And so, yeah, I don't think the season was like as focused on the tire business as it was in the first 2 seasons, but still, I would say it was an alright plot. I would give it. And so, yeah. In terms of the settings, so once again, it's not as much focused on the actual tire center itself. You do have still, like, it still is a decent amount at the Valley Forge Auto Center. So besides that, there is, let's see here, not a lot of, like, extremely memorable locations. There was the area that they were testing the Taka tires. For some reason, like, Shane had, like, these kind of, I want to say, Tony Soprano-styled dreams, where he would be, for some reason, he would be, like, in the forest, like, in a medieval forest, where it's, like, everyone was dressed in like not medieval, I'm not sure, but like very old. It's not, I would say medieval. I would get like fantasy kind of, like not medieval, more fantasy. He was in like this fantasy village where everyone that he knew was there. So that was, I guess, kind of interesting. It was like a bit unexpected, because they, I guess, went that direction with Shane's, I don't know, dreams or whatever. So yeah, I thought that was a fine setting. Besides that, there is, I don't know, a strip club that Dave is at with Pete and the other businessmen. Besides that, there is, nothing really, just regular areas and stuff. It's, I'll go like I don't know. They really just don't focus as much on the actual tire center as they did in previous seasons. So I'm just going to give the plot, I would give the settings, I think probably like a 6 out of 10. I'm going to give it. I'll be generous. I'll say it's above average, mainly for the actual Valley Forge Auto Center. I don't like Phil's office, by the way. We actually see Phil's office a decent amount, and I don't really like the setup of his office, I would say. So it was also like the television area at the end. Nothing great, I would say, but the actual core auto center is still nice, I guess, when we are still there. So 6 out of 10 for that, I guess. In terms of the comedy, it's still funny. There were still definitely moments that I was laughing out loud. Maybe a bit less so than previous seasons. It did, because again, they are focusing a bit more on like plot relevant stuff with like drama related to the characters, and they like a bit, it's not as much on the comedy. It's like definitely the first season felt very much like they were focusing strictly on comedy, and like a bit less on the actual, like still the plot aspects and still like the drama and stuff, but a bit less so. Whereas at this point in the show, like season 2 also, it started getting into a bit more of like the actual drama specific stuff with characters, and the season definitely, it does have like a lot of drama heavy stuff. So I would give the comedy aspect, I still think that it was funny, definitely. I would give the comedy like I'm thinking like a 6.5 to a 7. I'd say it was between good and pretty good, and I'll be generous. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I'll say I think that it was still pretty good comedy. Definitely, maybe a bit worse than the previous 2 seasons, but still definitely pretty good moments. Definitely some laughs that I had in there. So yeah, in terms of the worst thing, I think the worst thing was probably just, I don't know, the stuff with Bonnie. I just really didn't care for. Like it felt kind of boring, and Phil was very much tied into that kind of stuff. There was like one good moment, I think, where it's like Phil went to the meditation session with Bonnie, and then he got a phone call in the middle. So, but I also just kind of got some secondhand embarrassment. It felt like kind of, I just got secondhand embarrassment for that, because it was a very awkward situation. So, yeah, the Bonnie stuff I just didn't really like as much. The Phil stuff as well, and a lot of the stuff with Will. It's like Will he doesn't feel as good as he did in previous seasons. So I'm going to say, but specifically, if I had to say a worst thing, it would probably be the Bonnie stuff. I think that the Bonnie stuff was like, I don't know, I didn't love it, so I'm honestly just going to give it a 4.5 and say it was not that good. So I'm going to be harsh with it. In terms of the best thing, I would say that the best thing was probably, I'm not sure, I think I'll reuse the best score. I guess I can't think of anything on the spot, so I think I will just reuse the best score, which I gave a 7 out of 10 for the comedy. I'm just thinking maybe Dave's stuff. I did really like anything that had to do with Dave this season. I think that Dave was a very good highlight of the season, his character, as well as I did like the actual, like, again, when they were focusing on like the business side of things of like helping the Valley Forge auto brand to be successful. So like all the Taka tire stuff, I guess, was also pretty good. But Dave specifically, I thought his stuff was, I don't know, I think I'll say the stuff with Dave was pretty good, as well as the comedy, 7 out of 10, so I can group both of those together, as well as, I guess, like anything, I don't know, the Taka tire stuff, I guess, also. So just 7 out of 10 for all that stuff, but specifically, I guess, mainly the comedy, I would say. The comedy I did think was pretty good, so I'm just going to mostly reusing that aspect, but also, I guess, like you can mention the Dave aspects of the season, as well as the business side of things, I guess. So yeah, that is all of the scores, so I'm going to do the calculations. So King Crimson. All right, so it ends up coming out to about a 6 out of 10, which would be above average, but I think I'd still give it higher than that. I think I'd probably go with, like, I'll be generous, I'll call it a 7 out of 10. I think it was pretty good. Definitely, I think the first and the second season I gave a 7.5. I thought that they were very good. I think that this season it's slightly lower. It's not as good as the first two for, I guess, the reasons I mentioned in this review. But yeah, just some stuff holding it back. A lot of the Phil stuff, the Bonnie stuff, some stuff that they did with Will, just not as good, I would say. But still, like, definitely a solid show. Another pretty good season, I would say. Solid 7 out of 10 I'm going to go with. So yeah, that is pretty much all there is to it. So if you have any recommendations, any shows, movies, video game stories, anime, manga, web series, anything that you want me to review, leave it in the comments and I will maybe possibly check it out. With that said, that is pretty much all there is to it. So let's leave it at that.